Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well today. I hope you're doing really well. I want to catch up with a few things regarding our favourite YouTuber, and of course give an update because I haven't really spoken about the Bruce Lehmann case, defamation case, since into adjournment. But there's been a lot happening that with allegations that he had to flee a match recently because he was being yelled at and verbally abused. And of course, that made its way to the media conveniently. So there's all of that. Plus, there is the Katie Joy really hammering support for Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I mean, it's interesting to take this stand that, you know, she's done her time. What's she going to be like when Josh Duggar comes out and he's done his time? Is she going to jump on the bandwagon of that while he's got parole? She's also an expert on her matter as well. And in fact, she's actually compared herself and made herself a victim and written on the back of that. So there's lots to talk about. It's 9:46 Thursday morning in Australia, in Melbourne. So it looks like it's going to be a warm day. Finally, we've hit summer. We've had lots of rain. A really wet summer so far. Although we do need the rain, there are parts of the country which are flooded. Oh, sorry, it's not going to be a hot day. It's going to be 24 degrees Celsius. So it's going to be a mild day in the scheme of things. I think tomorrow's supposed to be degrees Celsius, and then it goes back in the early 20s. And then, but yeah, the good thing is we're not going to have some rain, but we've got parts of the country that are in flood at the moment. Queensland's got some flooding. Parts of Victoria's in some flooding. So some of our country, people in the same state have got some flooding. So we've got flooding, we've got bushfires, we've got and yes, so it's all of that is very, very interesting. So yeah, so we've got all of that in one state, and you can hear my son laughing in the background. So yeah, let me just. So I want to welcome you. So I want to start off. Let's just see what happened, because the final days of the Bruce Lehmann defamation case was very interesting, because one of the things that has come about is that both of the star witnesses lack credibility. So how does the judge sift through the evidence when both of the witnesses are deemed to be not necessarily credible? So the federal court has because this has been a public interest case, so everything has been everything was streamed on the YouTube channel and taken down because it can't remain. Hang on a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Right, so I'm getting my son laughing. So the lawyers for Bruce Lehmann have argued the former Liberal staff is entitled to substantial damages, even if the judge in his defamation trial rejects his denial of doing the horizontal tango with Brittany Higgins. Now, it's really interesting because Bruce Lehmann has said that nothing happened during that time, and Brittany Higgins said that something happened, but it was without consent. So for me, I mean, for my part, if he had said something had happened and it was consensual, then it would make it easy for the judge. The judge actually has to work out whether something happened. Now, if you believe something happens, then Lehmann essentially, and don't forget, it's only on probable cause. There's no beyond reasonable doubt. He has to say that there is a probability of it happening. So the federal court has released the submissions, and he claims he was defamed in an interview in which he was in Parliament House. He's always denied that anything happened, and the criminal trial collapsed in 2022 due to juror misconduct. Now, they did say that the prosecutors declined to retry the case based on the mental health of Ms. Higgins. So whether or not anything has happened, we have no idea. So in the defamation case, Network 10 has the burden of proving the alleged R did occur on the balance of probabilities. I remember, so it's balance of probabilities. During the oral closing arguments shortly before Christmas, the court heard it may be open for justice to find the pair did do the horizontal tango in the office of Senator Linda Reynolds, but not satisfied that it was non-consensual. And so his lawyers have said, well, if you do find that that's the case, he's still entitled to damages. But they are a very different thing from the allegation that he arred a young woman. But my concern is, hello, Bo, my concern is that if and the judge says something has happened, well, then how can he say then it was consensual? Both Network 10 and Ms. Wilkinson have argued that such a finding should mean that Lehmann receives no damages. In its submissions, 10's lawyer, Matthew Collins, KC, argued that such finding would amount to wicked conduct of the highest magnitude by Mr. Lehmann, and he argued that Mr. Lehmann would have been brought the case on a false factual foundation, amounting to gross misuse of the court's processes. In her submissions, Ms. Wilkinson lawyer Sue Chrysanthe described such conduct, if it were the court's finding, as perverting the course of justice. So I find it very, very interesting that they're going, hey, dude, that yes, so he's taken the defamation on the basis, he's sued on the basis that he's seen happened. But then he's saying, well, if the judge finds that something happened, then it had to be consensual, so we're still entitled to damages. To me, that's like having your cake and eating it too. Either something happened or something didn't happen. As I said, in my view, he would have been better off arguing that it was consensual, because then it would have been harder for them to admit that it was non-consensual. Does that make sense? Because at the moment, you've got two people. You've got a woman that was seen with him, absolutely plastered, entering Parliament House. He says he did work. He left, and she was found half naked on the couch later on, and he left her there. So what would you say happened on the balance of probability? I'm just saying. But anyway, both sides have used submissions to launch fresh attacks on the credibility of the two key witnesses. Mr. Lehmann's lawyers opened their submissions by refuting their claims that their client was a compulsive liar, although they did concede there are issues with his evidence. It is accepted that Mr. Lehmann's evidence was in a number of respects unsatisfactory, and it would be open to the court to form an adverse view of his credit. But they argued his evidence about the core allegation remained unshaken and consistent. In contrast, they submitted that Ms. Higgins is prepared to assist as truthful things she does not know, in fact, to be correct. Network 10 has argued that Ms. Higgins made many appropriate concessions and was otherwise candid and an honest witness. Now, again, you could argue that her core belief doesn't change. There's little bits and pieces as to in the events of the night that she doesn't remember, which she has admitted to. But the fact is that the fact remains is that she says that she has maintained that she awoke with him on top of her, and she remembers that and asked him to get off her. That hasn't changed. Network 10, so he described Mr. Lehmann's demeanour throughout the evidence as combative and defensive and urged the court to approach his evidence with extreme suspicion. Mr. Lehmann was an actively dishonest witness, he argued. Network 10 also ran a qualified privilege. Now, the other thing is that there was a YouTube channel that was live streaming the trial, and they got called out by the judge, and he was going to do a because they were streaming, and to get your name referred to in court, some people might say was a good thing, but that's an issue for this publication to stop publishing. So so this was this one. So much has happened. So here we go. So there was a channel. I haven't checked to see whether it's still up and active, but it was a little while ago. So he ordered the publisher of Feminism Debunked YouTube channel to appear in court. So this is what happens if you're caught streaming or sharing photos in Australia because they allow it to be streamed, but it can't be recorded or have any publications. And that's why he's been very transparent of making sure that everything was available to be seen on the federal court website. You can get all the submissions, you can get all the transcripts, you can get everything on there. So the judge in that trial ordered the publisher of a YouTube channel to appear in federal court to show cause as to why proceedings for contempt shall not be brought against them. The action comes after 9 videos of the hearing, which were live streamed, appears on a YouTube channel, Feminism Debunked. Justice Michael Lee has named Glenn Logan as the publisher on Friday, ordered that he appear in court on February 13, 2024. He issued a warning at the start of each day of the hearing that the live stream was provided for members of the public to observe and listen to the hearing. However, viewers were prohibited from making any recordings or photographic record of the hearing, and failure to comply would constitute a contempt. Several times during the hearing, the judge named and warned sites which had breached the order, saying that court staff were carefully monitoring social media sites. So this one was singled out, and he also asked that the order be served on YouTube's parent company, Google, to reveal who was responsible for the channel. So it finished 2 days before Christmas. So that's what happens. So that's what happens in Australia if you're caught live streaming court proceedings, because court proceedings are generally, while they are recorded, they're not for public domain, which is something very interesting. Something very interesting. Something that makes Australia very unique. But this is what happened the other day. So what was also revealed in the hearing was that Channel 7, Network 7, who had an exclusive interview with him, was paying for his rent. He did an interview which they said there was no payment made. It was found that they actually were covering his rent. But he was forced to flee abuse at the Sydney Cricket Ground. So go back to your air-conditioned mansion. Channel 7 will protect you. These are the words that were reportedly held at Bruce Lehmann, forcing him to flee the Sydney Cricket Ground on Friday during the third test against Pakistan. Lehmann and the friends were heading back to the cricket ground from the entertainment quarter around 1:30 when the altercation reportedly occurred. 4 men in their 30s started hurling insults in Lehmann's direction, followed him for about 300 metres and taunted him over the Brittany Higgins allegations, calling him an FR and mocking his appearance. The men tried to spit on Lehmann. Don't you know what consent is, Bruce? You fat, the group taunted. Lehmann has denied all allegations that he essayed or Ard Higgins. While most of the altercation occurred outside the SCG, the abuse continued as Lehmann entered the ground and made his way up the escalator toward the top bays. The group then suggested that Lehmann jump off the top bay. You jump it off. We'll be ready to, So they held the final straw was Lehmann was when a member of the group told him to go back to his air-conditioned mansion, proclaiming that Channel 7 would protect him. Channel 7 covered Lehmann's $2,000 per week rental property on Sydney's northern beaches for a year in exchange for 2 exclusive interviews on its Spotlight program. A spokesperson for 7 was contacted for comment on the incident but has not yet responded. In CCTV footage seen by ground staff, Lehmann appeared rattled as he approached the top of the escalator. He was so shaken by the incident at the SCG that he and his friend left. Lehmann described the incident as abhorrent and slammed the men for abusing him in front of children and parents. The abhorrent physical and verbal abuse, threats and taunts from the idiots towards me are a reflection of the intellect and character of those blokes, he said. What is most concerning is that they thought it was appropriate to hurl the profanity-laden abuse around dozens of children and families who, like me, simply wanted to enjoy a fun day at the cricket supporting the pink test. In a statement, a spokesman for Venues New South Wales encouraged patrons to immediately report antisocial behaviour, with patrons who exhibit this behaviour receiving a 2-year ban from the SCG. Now, it's interesting because, yes, they do have, they have they always put up antisocial number throughout the grounds anyway, so it's quite right. The altercation comes 2 weeks after a woman allegedly pelted eggs at Lehmann's house and tipped corn shells over a neighbour's black Kia sedan, assuming it was his car. So, and then it goes in to say that he pled not guilty at the criminal trial, but the trial collapsed, and that he was sued. He was not named in the interview, but argued friends and former colleagues in Parliament House were able to identify him. So, I don't condone violence of any sort. It is a bit of a shame that he hasn't had his day in court, because we do live in a democracy where you are innocent unless proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty. So technically, he hasn't been found. He hasn't been found guilty. But on the other hand, there is people have made their own conclusions, and of that. So that's where we are at the moment. Now, the judge has retired to consider that. I don't think finishing 2 days before Christmas that His Honour would have given any thought to the matter over the Christmas. He'd be just getting back to it now. So, I've probably got another half hour, so I've got probably going to just be on for another half hour because I've got to meeting up with my daughter later today. So around midday, so it's 10:05 now. So I've got a little bit of time still. So yes. So I don't know what you think about that. Oh, the other thing is that as I put on my community tab, people were arrested for the firebombing of Friendly Doherty's house, and there seems to be a connection between them and Bruz. So I find that to be quite interesting. That there is a link there between Bruz and Bruz and the firebombing, or the people that did the firebombing. So, yeah. All right, we're going to get on to our favourite. I mean, it's still around, but there's this obsession. I mean, people say to me, I'm obsessed by Katie Joy, but let's face it, I don't have my social media just covered with her. I do cover other things, and I try to do other things. I try to have a variety because of that. Okay. So here we go. So let's have a look at this. So back here was when she so back here, so she was talking about remember we talked about how she was calling out 7M, and then she was correcting people because apparently she's the source for all her child content, she said. And then she called out other people, and she's promoting. So there's just been content after content after content after content. And then we have some sister wives going into bat for Gypsy. And then she's really obsessed with the Browns and their kissing for some reason. And then she's back onto sister wives again. You know, so she's going between the two at the moment. Oh, yes. So here is where she starts playing the victim. My outrage. I have been accused. So she says, my outrage, what D.D. Blanchard did to Gypsy as a mum with a medically fragile son. I have been accused of Munchausen's by proxy by other mums and stalkers online because of cases like D.D. Blanchard. I have never once medically abused my son. I would give up my life and die for my son to be cured of his illnesses. I cannot fake anything that he was born with. But because of women like DD, I am judged and abused from CPS. One time, DD was reported to CPS for Munchausen's 7 times. I have been reported since her story became national news, all unfounded. And even our nurses and doctors got involved to prove it was a lie. I need to speak up for mothers like me. Please listen to me. Note that no doctor or nurse has ever accused me of abuse. It has always been people that follow my work and channel. So there you go. So and then people are talking about it. She goes, my heart breaks for your mum and you. We have never once been accused by doctors because our son has a missing pituitary gland and neurological disorder that presented itself in the first 3 months of life, but it hasn't stopped strangers and others from filing false reports for us. And then people say, oh, it's so sad because you have been, making awareness. And then someone calls her an advocate. She gets called an advocate. So, Yeah, so she's made that about her. And then she goes, she's defending her again. The hateful comments on this post are foul. Gypsy never one time said that she didn't murder her mum. In fact, she admits to killing. Read her book and watch the new series. You'll see that this is a woman who's not a manipulative, vindictive person. She did not ask for any of this attention. The fact that people so easily buy into narratives from their act or other shows that Nick was somehow incapable of making his own choices is so unnerving. I would encourage everyone to watch the coverage of Nick's trial, watch Gypsy's testimony, watch the testimony of the text messages, listen to the police and prosecutors, discuss the master-slave contracts that Nick made Gypsy sign, learn about his previous arrest for public, in a parking lot in front of children, learn about Nick's stepfather being an SO, understand that Nick had a million choices and knew this was wrong, but he did what he wanted to and would do it again. Gypsy is remorseful to this day and Nick is not. I hate the way so many spin this as Nick was naive. Nick was a problem waiting to happen. So who's that? Oh yeah, so now it goes into, she's trying to prove that Gypsy was the victim. Who cares, remember, she took a plea. She did a plea bargain. Someone says here she wants privacy and just gets on with her life, yet joins social media before her foot hits the pavement. I don't see the connection to why his stepdad has been an SO has anything to do with it. If it did, we'd say Gypsy was raised by a master manipulator and liar. So what would that say about Gypsy? I've never watched the act. I've watched the documentary that her family and friends were on and all the court case that were posted. But both my sons are autistic and there are no excuses on what either of them did. But I do think he should have got less. I understand the hell Gypsy went through, but that doesn't mean I don't trust her. That doesn't mean I trust her. So, it's very... And someone says, see the problem with all of this. No one knows what's true and what isn't. I get it. You watch movies, read media outlets, and you don't know what truth is. I do think after her book release, people will understand better. And she said they should watch his trial. It's all online. So, as I said, I'd be interested to see how she's going to cover Josh when he gets out. Because she's saying, well, he did his time. Because she's saying that he was, we know that actual texts between Gypsy Rose and her co-defendant. Now she's saying he wasn't manipulated. He frequently threatened her. His trial had a forensic expert that reviewed the evidence. Despite the act and the media claiming Gypsy manipulated him, prosecutors were clear that he was not manipulated. So, she's definitely on the side of Gypsy because he's a man? If you've watched the finale of Gypsy Rose Blanchett's docuseries, you know a large portion of the final 2 episodes was dedicated to her marriage. So apparently her family support her new marriage. The therapist in the series gave the new marriage a grim prognosis, given Gypsy's history of severe CA, trauma, and her lack of real-life experience. Gypsy's family told me over and over again they support Gypsy no matter what. The last thing they want to do is to try and control her life or her choices. Part of that means Gypsy needs to be able to make choices as an adult, and if it doesn't work out, they'll be there to pick it up. If it doesn't work out, okay. Mia remains pretty protective of Gypsy. They've remained in the background since her release. Haven't they done media? So they haven't remained in the background. The Gypsy and Ryan are committed to therapy. Note, the sauce that Christy was making on the stove was for bread pudding. Christy and Rod love to entertain and love to cook. So yes, so she's her source. But I'm wondering how long it's going to be before the tables turn. And it's interesting that she talks about people not making money off the family, and that's what she's doing. Yeah. So it's just bizarre. How bizarre. Hey, baby. So that's about, and the other thing is, and apparently, allegedly, Gypsy's claimed to have been, had her TikTok hacked, and Katie Joy is offered to help her get her thing unhacked. But her Facebook page is still hacked. Her original Facebook page is still hacked. And they're still getting hundreds of thousands of views. Now, I'm still questioning why hasn't she had that page? Why hasn't she done something about it? No, I would suppose that it's because she's making money off it. And if she wasn't making money off it, she would have done something about it. Because apparently, allegedly, she's had the monetization put back to her, which again I doubt, because I've gone and through and shown you how the business app works, and that, in my opinion, and I've spoken to people who know a little bit more than me, that for them to have changed all of those points on her Facebook had to have only been done through the business suite, and they had gone through and why would they only have hacked her Facebook and not her Instagram? Because if they changed the monetization of one, the monetization of the other would have been changed as well, because that's how the business suite works when you have them linked together. And how could she start another page in her business suite if they were all hacked, if one was hacked? So I have questions, lots and lots of questions. So yes, that's what's going on there. There is still no update on the courts, although it was only October, so maybe the end of, I reckon usually it takes about 3 months. Usually, my understanding is, for most cases, for a decision, 90 days. So possibly maybe early February, taking into account the Christmas New Year break, we may have movement. There is a hearing scheduled anyway for March, so I suspect that just before the next hearing date will be an outcome or a verdict on all of that, and then they've got a scheduling conference, so we will have a date probably March as to when it's going to trial. But if she's not handed over, all the stuff she's required to hand over, and we even saw in the Lehmann case, all the journalist notes all being handed over, everything was redacted. We see it all the time in Australia, that notes are handed over. They've got to show where their research was. The producer of the show was actually called upon, and they had to show text messages, and they had to show all the messages that were sent between the parties, and WhatsApp messages. Hundreds and thousands of WhatsApp messages were submitted into the court to show that discussions had taken place. When they said, did you consider XYZ, they referred to a WhatsApp discussion. So journalists stand by their work, and they have all the evidence to back it up. So, no journalist is and what about the news that the Chrisleys got $1 million compensation? Wow. Hey, that's pretty impressive. Let's just have a look what that had, because we know that there's a certain person they can't talk about them. Not bad for somebody that's incarcerated. Oh dear. They've settled $1 million lawsuit. So let's have a look at this. Todd and Julie Chrisley received $1 million settlement in lawsuit alleging misconduct investigation against them. The couple's attorney called the settlement an encouraging sign as the pair's appeal of their evictions will be heard in April. It's interesting that they've been paid compensation. So it could be it could be that there could be freedom for them. And then what does that do to a certain nondescript YouTuber? They've scored a legal victory amid their ongoing prison sentences for their involvement in multi-million-dollar bank fraud and tax evasion. On Tuesday, a lawyer for the couple announced they'll be receiving $1 million settlement from the state of Georgia to resolve their federal lawsuit against Joshua Waits, the former Director of Special Investigations of the state's. We've been saying for months that the criminal case against the Chrisleys was highly unusual and had real problems. The family's attorney said this settlement is an encouraging sign. It's really unprecedented for one arm of the government to pay money to defendants while another arm is fighting to keep them in jail. After being cleared of their state tax evasion charge in Georgia, Todd and Julie took legal action against Waits in 2019 for specifically targeting the famous family in their state tax evasion charge. According to the lawsuit, which was obtained by People, the reality star's former lawyer said that Waits' initial charges against Todd and Julie was a shocking example of how out-of-control public servants can abuse his office and violate the rights of innocent citizens for reasons that have more to do with securing publicity and money for his office than enforcing the law. The lawsuit claims several years ago Waits began to focus his efforts and desire on the Chrisley family, particularly Todd, as well as his estranged daughter, Lindsay. The Chrisleys accused Waits of targeting Lindsay in an attempt to seek information about the family from her. When he was unable to get information he wanted from her, Waits allegedly shared the Chrisleys' confidential tax information with Lindsay. Ultimately, Waits' efforts failed, but in the process, the Chrisleys were forced to incur substantial personal and financial hardship. Despite being cleared by the state tax evasion case, the Chrisleys were indicted by a federal jury in August 2019 for 12 counts of bank and wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy, all of which have been denied. The reality stars began their respective prison sentences in January 23. Todd will be released on January 22, 2033 from federal prison camp. As for Julie, she'll be released from the Federal Medical Center in Kentucky in 2028. Their original sentences were 12 years and 7 years, respectively, were reduced in September 2023. The couple noted that an appeal for their criminal convictions will be heard by the Federal Court of Appeals in Atlanta in April. Now, generally, civil and criminal cases are quite separately, but the fact that they've been paid compensation for that is going to work in their favour, I would think. But then I don't know how things work over there. So definitely very, very interesting. Yeah, definitely. Apparently, there's an update on that. To the weirdo that sent her. Apparently, somebody sent Katie Joyce edibles. Apparently, she says to the weirdo that sent an edible arrangement to my house that says Jesus love surpasses all. This is creepy. You gave the company the wrong phone number, which is proof you know me, and found my info online and gave the wrong number. Jesus doesn't like stalkers, she says. So, oh dear. Oh, there we go. Here it is right here. Oh, here it is. Here we go. Have a look at this. If Jesus loved me, he would have sent the chocolate-covered strawberries. There we go. Just a reminder that you are deeply loved by Jesus, regardless of any pain. His love surpasses all. So there you go. Has anyone seen the Sister Wives? I watched the first episode of it. I actually really enjoyed it. Actually, I really enjoyed watching it. The wedding. Was it the first part of the wedding? I thought it was good. But she says, maybe if I wear this new suit, Christine won't notice me. He had no to go into the wedding. He was nowhere near it. Why on earth would he try to sneak into the wedding? I don't understand. You know, I just don't understand why he should be trying to do that. So, and of course, she's stalking Reddit because that's where she gets her information from. Cody and Robin were spotted. According to the Reddit, Cody and Robin were standing in line for the Ferris wheel with their daughter Ariella. In the wild, Cody and Robin lavishly spend their sister wives' money on tacky art, floral shirts with a split net, ugly jewelry, large crystals to channel their inner prophets, and ugly knickknacks to adorn their overly decorated walls, floors, shelves, and cabinets. The Redditor snapped a photo with the couple, and she also saw them from the second floor where she shot a photo of Cody's hairline. Cody was wearing the ill-fitting black sweater, blue blazer, heart of the ocean necklace, and blue shirt. That's a lot of details. That's like stalkerish. This is the same outfit he was seen wearing in Christine's wedding episode, and apparently the only Miami Vice look he owns. The Redditor went on to explain that Robin was dressed hotsy-totsy, wearing knee-high boots and tight black leggings that she rarely sports on the show. Apparently, the Redditor saw Cody and Robin in multiple locations. She claimed that Cody and Robin barely spoke and looked irritated with each other. The couple only smiled when a few fans stopped and asked for photos. Then Cody and Robin were happily in love. What we learned from this event is that Cody shall now be referred to Skeletor and Robin as Miss Hotsy Totsy. Sick. So, you know, apparently you can't go out and about. What we learnt on Christine and David's wedding special, as I said, I really enjoyed it. Christine and David's fast relationship was adjustment for several of the kids on both sides. Aspen appears much reserved and guarded about their relationship. That's normal. David and Christine are both the life of the party. Cody rocked a slick back skullet and more to match. Yeah. He tried to seem overly supportive and happy for Christine, which came off super fake. Mo expressed happiness for Christine for her future. Janelle was the only sister wife to attend and was elated. Well, yes, that's nothing new. None of this is new. Gwendolyn's absence is obvious and not addressed. I wouldn't have said it was obvious. But anyway, Christine's dad is super cute and clearly hated Cody. He mocked Cody for crying about Christine leaving. He expressed happiness for Christine. But don't forget, Christine's got 2 mums too, so he was a polygamist. And Christine chugged her beer and basically said YOLO. years bail was reserved about her mum's marriage and gave an awkward speech to her mum on her wedding day morning. Meanwhile, Maddie broke down and sobbed tears of joy. Overall, everyone seemed happy except for Robin. It wasn't about Robin, though. What Katie doesn't realise is that there's always difficulty when you're merging two families together. Like, it's not a sister wives thing. It's whenever you have to merge two families together. There's always, things you've got to negotiate and work through. So the fact that they were actually, what was the most interesting was who was it? One of the daughters talking about the fact that they hadn't known each other for 12 months because she had a 12-month rule with the kids, but they had to have known them for 12 months before they could get engaged or married. And that was addressed on the show, but she's left that out, And Christine admitted that it was hypocritical because she'd only known David 11 months. But, So anyway, all right. So I think that's about all that I've got to say. So we've covered Bruce Lehmann. We've caught up with what's happening. I hope you're all really well. As I said, we've got a mild day. So we've had huge rains. So, and floods. So anyway, I am going to head off now. But look, I just want to thank you for all of your support. I want to thank you for clicking like and subscribing. I want to thank my members. I just want to thank you for everything. I'll keep uploading. I hope you've enjoyed the shorts that I'm doing with the cards that I've got here. I've got another plan with me. I know it's just sometimes just sitting down, or if I sit down, I forget to hit record. I'll be working on. I'm hoping to work on some podcasting stuff in the future too. And I'm hoping to get back into my law studies because I'm sort of missing it at the moment. I'm missing it, which is good because it means that I want to do it. Because sometimes you can be so overwhelmed, you have to take that step back and find out if that desire is still there, and that desire is still there. So anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, and I will catch you again next time. Bye.